This evening, 6 persons arrested in connection with the daring robbery of GTT at the Giftland Mall. 2 arrested with cocaine and wildlife trafficking at CJIA. 74-year-old man sentenced to jail for the murder of his wife in 2012. In the region, Haiti sees more protests as fuel prices hike worsens public anger, and internationally, thousands in the UK pay last respects to Queen Elizabeth II. Welcome to another broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. 6 persons were remanded to prison for the offense of robbery under arms committed at GTT's outlet at Giffland Mall when they appeared at the Sparendam Magistrates Court on Thursday, September 16, 2022. The 6 persons charged were 25-year-old cleaner Andre Dover, 30-year-old businessman Percy Roberts, 27-year-old cleaner Ashley Mansfield, 24-year-old laborer Jamal Haley, 24-year-old unemployed Ryan Goodluck, and 39-year-old vendor Osmond Brummel. They all appeared before Magistrate Alicia George, where the charge was read to them, and they pleaded not guilty and were remanded to prison. The court heard that between September 10th and 11th, detectives from the Major Crimes Unit and Special Branch of the Ghana Police Force conducted an intelligence-led operation which led to the arrest of Percy Roberts. At the time of his arrest, a white and black Toyota Ram vehicle suspected to be used in the commission of the heist was recovered. Roberts was questioned and admitted to being the driver of the said car during the robbery. He told investigators that after the planning, they placed a white wrap on the roof and bonnet of the said car to hide its true identity, since the top and bonnet of the car were black. Roberts then led the police back to his home and handed over the sum of $500,000, half of the proceeds he claimed he received from the robbery. Further investigations led the investigating team to defuse the fire, where Andre Dover was contacted and interviewed. During that interview, Dover admitted, among other things, that she was part of the planning of the robbery. Dover said that she received $800,000 from an accomplice as her share of the proceedings from the loot. The investigators managed to track down and arrested several other suspects. Over $2.5 million in cash were discovered. The matter was adjourned to October 26, 2022. Canoe agents detained 2 travelers at the CJIA International Airport who were carrying a large quantity of cocaine hidden in biscuit wrappers and finches. Dale Jarvis has more details.
Officers of the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit at the CJIA International Airport intercepted a female outgoing passenger destined for the United States of America with a large quantity of suspected cocaine concealed in biscuit wrappers in her carry-on on Wednesday, September 2022. The 59-year-old woman, Unique Sunshine London of Haslington, East Coast Demerara, was arrested and escorted to Canoe headquarters along with the suspected cocaine. The narcotics tested positive for cocaine and amounted to over 11 kg. It has an estimated value of Guyana $12.3 million, and if landed in the United States of America, a value of US $336,000. Canoe officers, while investigating the matter, discovered a male passenger attempted to smuggle 6 finches concealed in hair rollers. Dan Raj Diochan of Perseverance Essequibo was arrested after it was discovered that he checked in a suitcase for Unique London. Both Diochan and London remain in custody. Investigations are in progress. Canoe wishes to remind the public that trafficking of narcotics is illegal, and care should be taken in examining packages when asked by others to transport them. Reporting for Headline News Update, Dale Jarvis.
Thanks, Dale. The Transport and Harbors Department is putting systems in place to have additional departure time from Pomeroon-Supernam region so that residents would not be left out of the highly anticipated Caribbean Premier League experience. Guyana is set to host 11 CPL matches at the Guyana National Stadium, Providence, including the semi-finals and finals beginning on September 21st. The Transport and Harbors Department Traffic Manager Acting Stefan Sekel said, accommodations is in keeping with the anticipated increase in the demand from persons using the Sparendam-Perica route. The initiative by the Transport and Harbor Department will ensure persons from Region 2 have access to all the games, resting assured that transportation will be available to take them home, especially for the late games. Stick around after the break. 74-year-old man sentenced to jail for the murder of his wife in 2012 and 2 police remanded for charges of bribery.
Guyana goes on show from September 16th to October 2nd for the first ever Cricket Carnival with an exciting lineup of parties, concerts, pageants, CPL cricket semis and finals, and Carnival Costumes Parade. Book your tickets now. For more information, log on to cricketcarnival592.com or our social media pages. Come and experience our people, our food, and culture from September 16th to October 2nd.
The sixer! That's the first of the night.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brickdam and White Castle Fish Shop, be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Welcome back. 74-year-old Gordon Leslie Durant was sentenced to 4 years in prison for the murder of his wife, whose body was found buried in the sand of an unfinished bathroom at his Melanie Darmshana home when he appeared at the Demerara High Court on Thursday, September 16, 2022. Durant, who has spent 10 years on remand for the murder of his wife, 50-year-old Joan Durant, appeared before Justice Joanne Barlow and received a 4-year sentence. After pointing out some important details of the case, Justice Barlow stated that she would begin Durant's sentence at 21 years. However, she deducted 10 years as required by law for his time spent on remand and a further 7 years for his early guilty plea. As a result, Durant would only serve 4 more years in prison for the death of his wife. The court heard that one of Joan's sons had reported her missing on June 26, 2012. And 2 days later, her husband confessed to the police and led them to where he buried his wife. Joan's decomposed body was discovered in the unfinished house covered in sand. Police officers Marlon Kudu and Ramesh Chitram were charged for allegedly accepting a bribe in exchange for not investigating a case regarding the discovery of an illegal firearm when they appeared at the Albion Magistrates Court earlier today, September 16. The duo appeared before Magistrate Rabindranath Singh, where they pleaded not guilty to the charge of a corrupt transaction with an agent and were placed on $100,000 bail each. They were also ordered to lodge their travel documents. The court heard that on September 11, 2022, at Rose Hall Town Police Outpost, while being agents of the Guyana government, they corruptly obtained $400,000 from Gomati Matudin as an incentive for not charging Jamal Hussein for illegal possession of a firearm. They will return to court on October 18th and report to the Albion Police Station twice monthly. The Ministry of Housing and Water has commenced the rolling out of its housing support program in Letem, Region 9, where 600 prospective homeowners will receive $1 million each to commence the construction of their homes. The initiative was announced by President Dr. Irfan Ali during an outreach within the Rupununi region last month. The initiative will see $600 million being injected into the region. The activity forms part of the ministry's Dream Realized Housing Allocation exercise being held in Letem, where 200 persons received house lots. Last year, some 400,000 persons were allocated house lots in the new track CHPA housing development. The activity is being led by Ministers Colin Crowell and Susan Rodriguez and CEO of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Sherwin Greaves. Representatives from the New Building Society were also on the ground pre-qualifying persons for loans. Don't go away after the break. Haiti sees more protests as fuel prices hike worsens public anger, and Texas sends 2 buses of migrants to U.S. Vice President's home.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brick Dam and White Castle Fish Shop. Be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Hey yo, GT Massive, this is Double M. All hear me out. Right now it's all about the Marshall Super Concert, October 1st. Right here is cricket, is carnival, is soca in Guyana. Hey, ha!
Welcome back. Now let's take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. A World Food Program facility with enough food for 100,000 people has been looted in northern Haiti. Violent street protests have rocked Haitian cities following an announcement that the government was doubling the price of fuel. Al Jazeera's Rob Reynolds reports.
Unstoppable protests convulsed Haiti again on Thursday. An unknown number of people have been killed as violence intensified between police and protesters with attacks by criminal gangs. 3 Haitian policemen were reported among the dead. The situation appears to be spiraling into greater violence and lawless turmoil. Burning barricades and angry crowds blocked the road to the international airport in Port-au-Prince.
For most of this week, Haiti has been disrupted. The capital, Port-au-Prince, has been disrupted. For the most part, everybody is hunkering down. They're staying home. The streets, it's virtually a ghost town, as there are protests and violent barricades against the decision from the government to raise the price of oil products in Haiti.
That fuel hike seems to have been the spark that caused simmering discontent to burst into flame. Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, is beset by soaring inflation, criminal gangs that rob, kidnap, and rape with impunity, and a largely ineffective and widely reviled government. The price of basic food items has increased by 50% in the past year. Buildings were set ablaze and food warehouses looted, including one operated by the Catholic organization Caritas. A World Food Program facility in the town of Gonaïves was also looted and burned, WFP officials said.
What's important is that we actually lost enough food to feed around 100,000 school children for 3 months. We have 4 million acutely food insecure Haitians, 1 million of which are actually quite vulnerable and that we prioritize for humanitarian assistance. So when an incident like this occurs, it's impacting the population. It's impacting a very vulnerable population.
The critical situation in Haiti threatens the stability of the entire Caribbean, says the president of the neighboring Dominican Republic.
The effects of the multidimensional crisis in this country exceed our individual capacities and constitute a threat to stability and security throughout the region. For the Dominican Republic, it's a matter of national security, and to Latin America as well, in the crisis overflowing the borders of Haiti.
A desperate population, a government seemingly paralyzed, and a wave of rage that continues to grow day by day. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera.
Republican governors in the U.S. have escalated their campaign against the Biden administration's border and immigration policies. One in Texas gathered dozens of migrants into buses and sent them across the country to the vice president's doorstep in Washington. Florida's governor paid for 2 flights to take asylum seekers to the affluent resort of Martha's Vineyard. Al Jazeera's Heidi Zugastro reports.
They're people made pawns. Children clutching plastic bags, men and women who crossed a continent to flee poverty and violence, now being used as political tools.
I left Venezuela on August 18th. I passed through the jungle. I spent 6 days there. It was a tough experience, something unforgettable. I saw many people dead in the jungle.
Buses sent by the state of Texas dumped these 101 asylum seekers at the side of the road in front of the residence of Vice President Kamala Harris. Aid workers say a baby arrived injured and a man with diabetes was rushed to the hospital after his insulin went bad on the 40-hour bus ride.
Republican governors interfering in that process and using migrants as political pawns is shameful, is reckless, and just plain wrong.
A day earlier, 50 asylum seekers had been flown to Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. The vacation town, popular with Washington's elites, was given little notice to prepare. Volunteers quickly mobilized, finding them food and shelter.
It's manipulating people who are in very dire circumstances, purely for political gain.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis took credit for the flights, part of a coordinated effort among Republican governors to send migrants to Democrat-led cities. Some have declared states of disaster to hasten aid to the migrants.
And all those people in D.C. and New York were beating their chests when Trump was president, saying they were so proud to be sanctuary jurisdictions, saying how bad it was to have a secure border. The minute even a small fraction of what those border towns deal with every day is brought to their front door, they all of a sudden go berserk, and they're so upset that this is happening. And it just shows you, their virtue signaling is a fraud.
At the southern border, U.S. agents encountered about 200,000 migrants in July, down from May's peak and slightly lower than this time last year. Greater numbers of asylum seekers are arriving from Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela.
It's not just me, but thousands of Venezuelans who look for ways out of the country in search of the future, more than anything, to be honest, so our families can eat 3 good meals a day.
Not to be made political pawns in the U.S. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Washington.
And internationally, tens of thousands of people have lined up in London to pay their last respects to the late Queen Elizabeth II. On Monday, a state funeral will be held for her. Al Jazeera's Alan Fisher reports.
The line now stretches kilometres, the wait more than 6 hours. But people continue to come, refusing to be deterred, waiting for the moment they can pass the Queen's coffin, waiting to pay their respects. Jessica Howells travelled with her granddaughter. She saw the coronation in 1953. She wanted to say her own personal farewell.
I was around when the coronation was about, so I saw that when I was 6 on the little telly in my granny's room, and I thought, right, I've seen her at the beginning of her reign, I need to see her out.
There have been many who travelled in the early hours of the morning, joined the line, walked past and are now heading home.
She has been a figurehead for a long time, and when you talk about Britain, it's the Queen.
The line now stretches a long way from Westminster Hall, over bridges, past famous London landmarks. The line itself, a new landmark of its own. The line stretches for kilometres, but the pace is actually reasonable now. But with the authorities warning thousands more are expected in London over the weekend, the lines are going to get bigger, the wait is going to get longer. Overnight, the military held rehearsals for Monday's funeral, the gun carriage which will bear the Queen's casket rolling through the empty streets from Buckingham Palace, an empty black coffin carried into Westminster Abbey. Most of the royals have kept a low profile over the last 24 hours, but the new heir to the throne was out at Sandringham, at what was the Queen's country estate in the east of England, Prince William and Princess Catherine gathering flowers, talking to well-wishers. Back in London, it's now estimated by the authorities more than 300,000 people will in time file past as the late Queen lies in state, meeting the expectations for a nation saying farewell. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, London.
And that is it for today's regional and international news. Here now is your 3-day weather forecast. And that is all for this edition of Channel 2's Headline News Update. We will be back on Monday at 7 p.m. with another episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other and do have a wonderful weekend.